Hello, hello.
Hi, here we go. Good thinking.
Episode 40. We're
I know
here.
we're 40. 40 is a good number.
Nice round number for us. All right. Podcast, chat about all things marketing trends and everything in between.
Yes. There's so much I want to dig into. There's so much. There were I think 5 things that I really wanted to kind of take apart and really dig into, but I can't stop thinking about, and you posted about it on LinkedIn this morning, the Rhode pop-up and kind of what you said about it and mentioned, and you kind of really outlined the points, which was awesome and I think really helpful. And then thinking my mind kind of spun on like when we were going to Milan and other just pop-ups that we've seen in the past 6 months, right? Things that we've worked on, things that we've seen. It's a new level of pop-up, and I think it would be really good to really dig in. It feels like just a different everything than it used to be. I think it was before, and we can get into it, before, something that was much simpler, and now it's so much more of a true experience. And so I thought it would be good to really dig in and like what makes it. Like, let's do a masterclass on what makes a great pop-up. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Honestly, I think the Rhode one is somewhat of a masterclass, so we can use that as kind of a template for talking about things and give them like the props they deserve.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is just like broadly, like I think there is also something happening, like you said, with pop-ups. And to me, where I really see this going is I think ultimately these are markers for where retail needs to be looking. And I think retail, everyone's like, oh, it takes so long and it has to last forever and da 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 da. But like really, like people are looking for like immersive experiences and they really want to connect with the brand. And I think retail has kind of gone to this place of like, just the bare bones essentials, and that's it couldn't be further from what people are desiring. So I think what we're seeing in pop-ups are several things, and one of the things that I think is super interesting about pop-ups now, and we can kind of talk about this with Rhode, is that like if you look at a pop-up and create a pop-up in the right way, the ROI on it is way bigger than it used to be, right? Like it used to be like, oh, we got 4,000 people through the door in these 3 days or whatever. And you're like, oh, that's like not that many people. But nowadays, the reality is these pop-ups are as much for the content as they are for the people experiencing them. And what's so interesting is that they turn, I wrote this in my post and we can kind of, we can backtrack to like some more essentials, but like what I think is so fascinating about pop-ups right now is that they turn every person who goes into it into an influencer in a bigger way. Because like the reality is that, like influencers get all this gifting, they get all this fancy stuff, they have these setups, they have all this great lighting, and then they create all this amazing content. And when you do that as a pop-up and you're bringing that to people, then everyone becomes the quality content creator, and you get the micros and you get the maximum, like, you get the big and the small of influencers. And I think that is so fascinating. And watching, anyway, yeah.
But I will say something off of that, like thinking about that, I absolutely agree with it. And then I think from the customer angle, there's a connection point there because you feel like you're an insider. You feel like you're experiencing something and truly discovering, which like, fuck, man, discovery in retail, like that's it. That's like the golden nugget. And so you really feel like you're doing that. And so you're connected to the brand and you want to share it with your friends because you're doing something that's cool, but also like intimately, you really feel, I think, a true connection to the brand kind of as an insider, which I think is really a fascinating trait.
Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I think good and bad, right? So like I've spent my time looking at way too much stuff on the internet, as you all benefit from.
Which we all benefit from. So yes, please.
Yes.
Sorry, not sorry.
But I look at a lot of bad pop-ups too that I mostly don't post about because that's not my job is to not like bring mediocre things to the forefront unless they're really terrible and then I tell you all about them. But like the reality is that actually influence and these people who are showing up to these experiences, they are sharing those things. And so when it's mediocre, like there's a very, family with a beginning of K's name had a very big pop-up this week. One of them, not the biggest one, but one of the big ones. They're all kind of big. And the pop-up was a bust. Like it was an absolute meh. And the only thing that got posted of it was them showing up to the event, right? And like people talked about that. And so I think one of the things that's interesting is that like you can't come with something mediocre anymore. Like people are not going to applaud you for like just the effort. And I think that's what the Rhode team does so well, is that like
Yep.
this pop-up was not cheap to put on. I can tell you from those
Right.
interiors, those were expensive. It was only on for 3 days. Like that level of build some people don't even do for full retail, let
Yep.
alone like a pop-up. And then just the level of detail that they went to, like they brought all of what I called like the celebrities of Rhode. They bought the phone case, they bought the like the photo booth. Like these are their Rhode celebrities, right? And they brought them to the pop-up so that everybody had like a moment to kind of meet the celebrities of Rhode's brand. Like it was just
Right.
so well done.
Okay, so let's break that down a little bit more. I mean, we got to find a better phrase, and I'm sure you have one than like go big or go home. But basically, it's like don't do it if you're not going to really create an experience. Like don't even bother doing a mediocre pop up because it's just not the expectation and it just isn't there, right? Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would be better to do something smaller, like say Fishwife did the pop up, right? And their pop up was like I heard like literally like the size of a tuna can,
Right.
like, which is very appropriate, and it was very small and intimate, and it didn't try to be anything that it wasn't going to be, and people loved on it, right? And I think that you kind of have to meet the moment like in the right way. So it's not to say you can't do anything if you can't like invest gigantic dollars into doing a pop up. But you have to do it well, whatever it is that you're going to do.
Right. And more than a true experience versus just a like, here's our billboard.
Really, even down to line management. Like there are some very big celebrity hair care brands that have had some like tough times on the interwebs lately for like not having crowd management when they're a big brand and then everybody showed up and it's total chaos. And even that goes down to experience, right? Rhode did that really, really well. They had coffee, they had water, they had little moments along the way, they had staff running up and down, like you could see. And this line was not just around the block, it was around the block of another block of another block of another block. Like it took like a 5-minute TikTok sped up video to get to the front. It was amazing. Like that's a lot of work.
Yeah. But you know what I think that they did? To me, the differentiator there is that they saw everything as an opportunity, not like a hassle, right? Like, oh, wow, we're going to have people waiting in line because we're going to be so busy because it's going to be so popular. Amazing. How can we create the best experience versus like, ah, shit, there's going to be people, they're going to get rowdy. We're going to have to do this. Like, I think they saw everything as an opportunity and connected their brand in a true kind of experience.
They also like honor their place, you know, like they know that they're going to get this gigantic line and they prepare for it. And like, I think that's the thing is that like when you have a really great experiential producer, like they will know how to deal with all of these things down to trash management, down to water. How many pop-ups I've seen try to have hand washing when they want to do face stuff and have water like all over the floor. I cannot even tell you. But if you do it correctly and you have a great producer, then like they will think all of those things through. Yeah. But yeah, it's just really, I think it's about, okay, to backtrack. To me, it's one thing, like come with the big idea. Like this one was clearly about the mirrors. Like it doesn't need to be like a gigantic concept, right? Like they knew that they wanted to have people create content in it. People love to create content with mirrors. That's what they wanted, right? Like that was their concept. Some people have, you know, bigger campaigns that they're trying into, but like that's step one. Figure out what your big moment is. Highly recommend mirrors regardless of your moment.
Well, mirrors are fascinating. We know we've, you know, done them for years. It's an amazing retail concept to put in a store window because everybody loves to look at themselves. So, you know, there's that.
You can literally never go wrong with putting a mirror all over a pop-up. Like that, if you get nothing else from this podcast, it's that.
I mean, I'd go.
Tip number
I'd
one.
go.
Yeah, tip number one. Okay. Tip number two is, you know, think about the journey. So, you know, they thought about every moment and they thought about the post-purchase journey too. So they realized that not only were people going to go and have this experience, they were going so that they could post about having this
Mm-hmm.
experience. And they gave them things like they had a sticker pack with all of the that related to all of the different lip glosses, and they had very like the bags were integrated into the lip glosses so that people are all holding their pink bags, like, you know, bit in different shades. Like they really thought about the fact that like you're going to show up, you're going to stand in line. That's one experience. Waters, coffees. They had like custom pastries. They had the photo booth. Then, you know, okay, we continue.
Mm-hmm.
You go inside. They did a drip feed into the store so it wasn't too crowded. People created content for 5 minutes and then they left. Then they left with other things that they could also make content with. So the whole journey is really thought through, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's everything
Yeah.
you
I mean,
want it to be.
yeah, the journey, I wonder, what was the journey kind of even before? Was there buzz leading up to it, or was it simply, here it is, let's go? Because I think
They
we talk about like literally all the way through, like, what are you doing to ramp up?
Yeah, they were teasing it for at least a solid week. I mean, honestly, they can't tease it for too long because like they already had so many people. It was insane. Like and people were queuing for 5 hours to get inside.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot of people said
That's
they wouldn't
commitment.
do it again, but you know, like I wouldn't do anything again for 5 hours. So could be
Yeah.
amazing experience. I'd still never do it again. Yeah. It's like giving birth.
Yeah. Yes, it is. Amazing.
Okay, so then I'd say I really loved like what I called the like the viral moments and bringing those. So if you have those, if you have these like cultural kind of touch points as a brand, ensuring that like this is a huge deal for them. This is the first time that they went to London. It's the first time that the UK and Europe has really been exposed to the Rhode brand. So until then, they're like this mythical creature that has lived on the internet, right? And then it's like coming in. So even if you didn't get into the pop up, seeing the photo booth is exciting, you know,
Mm-hmm.
just seeing it, just knowing that it's there. So I love that they did that. And obviously the phone case is in and of itself a genius. And then, yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of all my points, but maybe
Yeah.
I had other points in my post.
Huh.
Can't remember.
We can link back to it. And so what about, like, I think going back to the fishwife example is a helpful one, right? Because this is general, like, as we said, kind of the masterclass of it, right? Like but it was really big. It was definitely very expensive. And I think can't speak enough about the level of quality and of production, like, you know, back house, like having somebody who knows what they're doing from a build standpoint through line producer all the way through, like that makes a difference every single time. And they clearly know that and did that. But what about a smaller brand? Like Fishwife is a great example, who clearly created a great experience. They didn't, but it wasn't a huge thing. Like it could be a, you know, tiny kind of Japanese style shop that was, you know, you could fit 3 people in. What are kind of the outline, the must-haves, the must-dos for a brand like that?
Look at the essence, like, you know, these are very different brands, right? Like you're not posing with a tin of fish. I mean, if you were going to pose with one, it would be a fishwife one, but you're not. I mean, they just launched caviar today, and I bet that people will pose with that. But, you know, I think it's like really like boiling down what the essence of like, what is like the thing that people most want to take away from your brand, right? Like with fishwife, I would venture a guess that their biggest thing is that they want to have the people who are fans of that brand want to have the limited edition products that they can't find in every store because most stores don't stock every SKU, right? So going to a store that's akin to the stores in Portugal where you have like all the tinned fish and it feels really amazing and repetitive, seeing that and having exposure to all of the different SKUs, meeting the founders, there was the illustrator there who's like done all of their brand. Like they really like just honed in on like the few things that make them really special, right? It's the lineup, the illustrator having like he's like kind of a cult in his own right, yeah. And then the owner is also quite like she's quite a presence for the brand. So the founder. So to me, like they took things really simply. They also worked with Klaviyo on that, I think, or is it Klarna? It's one of the K ones.
Okay.
Somebody sponsored it as a partnership. And so that's something also that like lots and lots of brands could do is
Right.
partner up and like figure
That's
out.
got to be the right partner. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Clavio because Klarna doesn't sound right. You don't need to fund getting your fish. You don't need to pay that for that installments.
Right. Right. I mean, I think it's interesting. And I think what they did well, and I think it's the Venn diagram of pop-ups, right, is take what your brand is an expertise in and then take kind of the cultural moment that you can create or what's happening within that. And I think that's really speaks to the artist, speaks to the limited edition, speaks to like the connection with, the founder, the team, like getting it, feeling like you're inside. Like, again, it's that inside connection. If you're getting something that is exclusive or limited edition or something like that, you really feel a connection to it. So it doesn't have to be this huge, gazillion-dollar experience, but it does have to be an experience.
Yeah. I will say that one of the things that I think, I'm sure this is coming down to real estate costs, but I do think like one of the things that brands are missing is that there is like this kind of like thing happening that I see where people are sad that they didn't get to go. And I almost feel like it's like close down for 3 weeks if you can't afford it and then like reopen again, like, or reopen the next weekend and not be open during the week. But like, to me, like there could be easily ways for brands to like continue with these pop-ups where people are really, really excited about it. I mean, another way to do that is a tour, obviously, which we do a
Right.
lot of. Tours aren't easy either. And let me tell you,
Costly.
tours are a whole, like, not just costly, but like they're a whole other level of production, and the way that you build for something moving versus something that doesn't move. Like you wouldn't have that road interior with all of those like curved panels, like, and have that go on the road. That thing would be cracked in before you even left the parking lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mirrors you can do, but not that many mirrors.
Fair enough.
But
all right. Anything we missed?
Well done to the Rhode team. I mean, obviously, like they're really, really doing very well. So I'd say keep doing what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great example of a brand that I feel like they're really balancing hitting like with immediacy, right? With timeliness, doing things like in the moment, but they're also clearly not skimping and being like, let's fucking get this out here, hit a deadline, and, acquiescing whatever production cost or trying workarounds or things that, maybe are done quicker. They're doing things really at the right level of execution and doing things that are really timely, which again, another Venn diagram that I think is hard to meet.
Yeah. I mean, that team over there, they're brave. Like they are, just that photo booth alone was probably over $1 million. So they're not afraid to spend their money. They know what they're doing. And they do it in a smart way. Like they don't do anything that doesn't want to garner attention. And I think like the line I use is that they know how to hack your feed. Like they know how to make things that you want to put in your feed. And that's what I do think, like, I think there's a lot of influencer fatigue right now. I think there's a lot of celebrity fatigue. And I think what's happening with these pop-ups is that there's a realness to these things, like where you're seeing it. And there's also like a physicality to them in person where it's like something to do, something to be excited about going to do versus just like sitting on your couch and scrolling for like,
right.
The eternities.
But I think it's interesting that the example that we're using, and is a great example, is Rhode, and obviously it is an influencer brand. But I think they're doing a good job from a brand management standpoint of making it more than just her. Like they're doing a really good job of making it very quickly a brand in its own right. And that's hard to do and impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. All right, it's fun.
All right.
Ciao.
Till next time.